I know we're a couple of minutes late, but I'd like to call the Senate Higher Education Committee to order. It's January 24th, 2017, and I do apologize for starting a little late. We had to wait for a few members because I didn't want to start without them here on this important issue. First, we're going to do an overview regarding the Globe College and Minnesota School of Business. And so first, I'd like to call Betsy Talbot, the manager in registrations and licensing for the Office of Higher Ed, who will give us some overview of what has been going on. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Oh, what's Nikki's last name? Oliver? And Ms. Oliver is joining her at the table, so welcome. And so please go ahead, just identify yourself for the tape.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senators. I'm Betsy Talbot. I am the Manager of Institutional Registration and Licensing for the Minnesota Office of Higher Education. As many of you may know, there is a triad that oversees higher education. The triad includes the U.S. Department of Education, accrediting entities, and the state authorization entities at the state level. The Minnesota Office of Higher Education is a state authorization agency, and we regulate the private colleges in Minnesota. We are the consumer protection branch of the triad, and it is focused on helping students. In July of 2014, the Minnesota Attorney General filed a lawsuit against Minnesota School of Business and Globe University. The AG alleged violations of the Consumer Fraud Act and Deceptive Trade Practices Act on issues related to 1, career placement and services and placement statistics, 2, accreditation and transferability of credits, 3, admission practices, and 4, advertising and recruitment for their criminal justice program. In April of 2016, the trial began in Hennepin County. In April to June of 2016, our office started communicating with the schools about our office's interpretation of our statutes, and in the event of any finding of fraud or misrepresentation, the school's approval to operate would be revoked. On September 8th of 2016, Judge Moore of Hennepin County ruled that the Minnesota School of Business and Globe University violated the Consumer Fraud Act and Deceptive Trade Practice Act in their advertising and recruitment practices for their criminal justice program. That same day, our office issued a statement that our office would be revoking the school's approval, and the revocation order was formally issued on September 15th. A revocation starts the process of closing a school. During an appeal of that revocation, that order is stayed, and the school gets to remain open and continue teaching students. The revocation order also included an agreement by our office to provide the schools the ability to have 1 year after revocation for a conditional approval to allow the schools to teach out their currently enrolled students. At that time, we had anticipated that most of the students would have been able to complete their programs under the agreement. Once our office began the process of revoking the schools, we began to focus on how to best help students. We received hundreds of calls from students where we provided information about transfer options, student loan options, or general information about the AG's lawsuit and verdict. While our office was revoking the schools, the U.S. Department of Education started their own parallel process and the review of the schools. Around September 23, 2016, the U.S. Department of Education placed the schools on heightened cash monitoring to restrict the schools' access to federal financial aid, while the department reviewed the verdict and any impact on access to federal financial aid. October 3, 2016, the U.S. Department of Education clarified these restrictions on the schools and required the schools to place a disclosure statement on their website, and all students who are seeking federal financial aid to sign a pretty strict disclosure statement. When our office saw that letter, we had grave concerns that the schools would be losing access to federal financial aid. Most schools who lose access to federal financial aid are not able to remain open, as that's how the funding that students use to pay for their tuition. On December 6, 2016, the U.S. Department of Education made the decision to revoke the school's access to federal financial aid. The U.S. Department of Education made this decision independent of our office's processes. The reasons for denying federal financial aid were: 1, the schools had been judicially determined to have committed fraud involving federal financial aid programs. 2, the schools had made substantial misrepresentations about the nature of its criminal justice program and the employability of graduates of that program. 3, MSB Globe made substantial representations about the students' ability to transfer credits about the schools to other institutions. So actually, the U.S. Department of Education decision to revoke federal financial aid was actually larger and more expansive than the court verdict in of itself. The U.S. Department of Education statutory framework has a zero-tolerance policy for schools to be adjudicated for fraud and misrepresentation of students that are on federal financial aid, and that's in statute. January 4th, 2016, the judge ruled on restitution and penalties for the schools. There were up to 1,200 students that have been enrolled in the criminal justice program. These students are entitled to apply for restitution to receive a refund of any tuition, fees, and books paid to the school, and a refund of any interest or finance charges for student loans. This restitution order could be up to the millions of dollars for students. And I think it's really important to mention that this is the first lawsuit in the United States that has actually gone to trial and gone to verdict. It's not uncommon for there to be lawsuits by federal or state agencies or attorney general's offices against schools for fraud and misrepresentation. But this is the first time we'd ever actually seen a verdict be reached. Most times when there's settlements, there's like an agreement that there was no wrongdoing, which does not trigger these penalties under law. Our office has learned a lot about this process. We have also learned that even if our office does not take any action against a school, that school will still lose access to federal financial aid and will still likely close. We have learned that it is really important to provide accurate and timely information to students. We've also learned how to work with accreditors and licensing boards, how to facilitate the transfer of students to new programs. Many students who were enrolled when the verdict was announced have found new institutions to attend. And that's all we have prepared at this time. And if you guys have any questions about this process or what's happening with students, please let me know.
Senator Isaacson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just missed one part. Did you say that the verdict was found and it's being appealed now, and while it's being appealed, there's a stay? Is that what you said, or could you re-explain that part? Maybe I misunderstood you.
Ms. Talbot.
Madam Chair, Senator Isaacson, our revocation is being appealed through an administrative hearing process that's provided by statute, and I'm not sure if the schools have appealed the original verdict or not.
Thank you.
Other questions? I've got a couple. You said many students, Ms. Talbot, you said many students had found new institutions. Can you tell me a percentage or the exact number of how many we're looking at?
We don't have exact numbers, but when we started communicating with the schools over the summer after the trial had started, they had about 1,400 students enrolled. We had gotten updated enrollment numbers, and we believe it was around 1,100 students when the verdict was issued. The verdict was issued in between terms. Essentially, their fall term started October 3rd. And so if I remember correctly, the number of students who end up starting the fall term was approximately 700. So about 400 students between the issuing of the verdict and our announcement of the revocation process, about 400 students left the institution, and we assume that most of them found different institutions to attend. We do know that, because we've been getting a lot of questions from other institutions who are taking these students about waivers of residency requirements, getting approval for financial aid purposes, and questions on how to count credits, things like that.
And Ms. Talbot, that's all programs or just criminal justice? So that 1,400 would be just criminal justice or all?
So at the time of the verdict, it was just 1,400 students total left at the school. And at the time of the verdict, I think there were only a handful of criminal justice students remaining.
Okay. So it was 1,400 that were kind of left there and needing to find. Okay. The one-year teach-out, is that why there was that the numbers went down? Is that, or am I crossing explanations here? Because I'm trying to figure out, because a lot of, at the time of revocation, there was 1,400. I'm assuming there was more before that. So I'm just trying to figure out, did most of them either were taught teach out or found others beforehand, found another institution beforehand?
We think, Madam Chair, we think about 300 to 400 students chose not to enroll in the fall, and the schools can talk more about those numbers. It wasn't really related to the teach out. When students would call us it's really walking through them, through their choices and what the risks are associated with staying with a school. Because we had students who had just started the prior term, and they didn't know if they'd be able to complete their program at that institution with that teach-out process. Because the appeal stays, the revocation, and that revocation process can be quite lengthy. It can go all the way up to the Court of Appeals. They could have had 2 to 3 years to complete a teach-out after the revocation, because you have that stay, then you have the revocation, and then you have that 1-year conditional approval.
And Ms. Talbot, maybe you can't explain exactly, but, and the revocation that the OHE made, that was complete. I mean, it was like that it wasn't just criminal justice. And do you know is that typical? Is that how you usually handle those? Or is it unusual to close the whole school when it's one program specifically that was an issue? How was the decision-making process to do across the board as opposed to just the one?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think one of the issues that we found with our statute is it's kind of all or nothing.
Okay.
And that we don't have a lot of remedial choices when we're looking at these institutions. And that's kind of what the U.S. Department of Education found. We're looking at the institution as a whole, if they've been adjudicated for fraud and misrepresentation, and we don't have as much negotiation room for what we can do with an institution when they have been adjudicated for fraud.
Oh, Senator Clausen, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to piggyback a little bit on Senator Fischbach's comments, and just to clarify, when you started your comments, you said there were 4 concerns. One was accreditation, I believe. Another was transfer of credits. And it's my understanding that other programs offered by Globe fell underneath maybe one or more of those 4 criteria you looked at, that it just wasn't the criminal justice system. Could you clarify that? See if I'm correct in that?
Ms. Talbot?
Madam Chair, Senator Clausen, so the judge's ruling was specifically finding frauds just related to the criminal justice program, their bachelor's degree and their associate degree program. The judge did not find any findings that could be attributed to the school itself on any of those other issues. The U.S. Department of Education, on the other hand, did find that to be attributed to other programs, which is specifically the statements about accreditation, the transferability of credits. So it's why the U.S. Department of Education ended up revoking aid for more reasons than the judge ruled for findings of fraud.
Senator Clausen?
But just to clarify, we're talking about more than just the criminal justice program based upon the findings of the federal.
Ms. Talbot?
Madam Chair and Senator Clausen, so the findings of fraud in court was just the criminal justice program, but the findings of fraud by the U.S. Department of Education for purposes of federal financial aid did include other programs, like I believe the Vet Tech program, might have been massage therapy. I remember it was like a list of 4 or 5 other programs, because those are the programs that those students were enrolled in, and those are the students that testified at trial.
Senator Newton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Talbot, when a school is accredited, how are they, or a specific program within a school is accredited, how are they informed of the accreditation?
Ms.
Do
Talbot?
they get a certificate? Is there a letter, if they're having a program?
Ms. Talbot?
Madam Chair, Senator Newton, I'm not quite sure of how they get approval from an accreditor. Our office also has the authority to approve academic programs, and we review the academic program and then we issue them an approval letter on yes, you were approved for this program, it's X number of credits, and if there's any conditions on that approval, it'll state that in that letter. And then we give that to the institution.
Senator Newton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the institution, before they offer the program, has to have that letter in their possession. And do we have other schools that are offering programs that aren't accredited that you know of?
Ms. Talbot?
Madam Chair, Senator Newton, well, the issue with the the criminal justice program was not actually that it wasn't accredited, it just didn't have the right accreditation. So the post board has rules it's a formal administrative rule that in order to be eligible to be a peace officer in the state of Minnesota, there are special licensure requirements. And one of those licensure requirements is you have to have a bachelor's degree, and it can be in any subject, but that bachelor's degree must come from a regionally accredited institution, and these schools in particular were nationally accredited. And it meant that those students could not use or apply any of their education or training to apply to become a peace officer in our state.
Senator Isaacson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe just for the sake of clarification, can you maybe delineate between national and regional accreditation for us?
Ms. Talbot?
Madam Chair, Senator Isaacson, sure. Regional accreditation is typically called the gold standard of accreditation, and it's your higher learning commission for this region. It's the accreditor that accredits the University of Minnesota, all of our Minnesota state colleges and universities, your St. Thomas, your Macalester colleges. You also have an alternate form of accreditation for an entire institution called national accreditation. It's not considered the gold standard, but it is a valid form of accreditation. It is recognized by our office. It's also recognized by the U.S. Department of Education, and it's just a different standards. They have different requirements to receive that type of accreditation.
Senator Isaacson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so specifically, just so I can understand this, and maybe I apologize if you're rehashing this, who accredited the programs for Globe? Was it you guys, or was it the national, or both, or was it some mixture? How did that accreditation work for Globe College?
Ms. Talbot?
Madam Chair, Senator Isaacson, we approve programs, but we don't accredit programs. It's a special term of art in higher education, and it's just reserved for these non-governmental third-party entities who do this academic review of academic programs and the institution itself. And in this case, Minnesota School of Business and Globe University were accredited by ACICS, which is a national accreditor. Some of you may know that's the accreditor that just recently got deauthorized by the U.S. Department of Education, which has triggered other issues for other institutions in the state.
That was my next question. She answered. Thank you.
Just one more question, Ms. Isaacson. You said that the revocation was appealed, the OHE revocation, and so it's pending. If the revocation is reversed, then OHE just reinstitutes it, and it's not, and Feds is separate, I understand that, but it would be taken care of at the state level.
Madam Chair, thank you. If we were able to end the revocation process, the institution would still be able to operate legally for a period of time. We know that they don't have access to federal financial aid, and once that decision was announced, that's when the school announced their closure and that their effective timeline of stopping instruction, because there's just not enough students who pay cash to be able to stay open and solvent. We also know because the institution was accredited by ACICS, we know that they could not be sustainable because of this verdict of finding a fraud, because they would be responsible for finding an alternate accreditor. It is a requirement under our law that you have an accreditor recognized by the U.S. Department of Education, and their accreditor is no longer recognized by the U.S. Department of Education. And I'm not confident that they would be able to find an alternate accreditor who would be willing to accredit them with this finding of fraud.
Senator Draheim?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The ACIS, is that correct?
Close.
Okay, sorry.
No worries.
But that body that was revoked, what other institutions in Minnesota also use that accreditation that I got wrong?
Ms. Talbot?
Madam Chair, Senator Drum, we only had a handful of institutions, and in a lot of respects, we were kind of lucky in that respect. ACICS accredited Art Institute, which has announced their closure, Le Cordon Bleu, which announced their closure, Sanford Brown, which announced their closure, and then we also have Minnesota School of Business. And I will say those previous institutions are all teaching out their students. We also had Rockford Career College, and they've just announced their closure. And then there was Minneapolis Media Institute. They just announced their closure. And then we had ITT Technical Institute, which also closed very abruptly and did not teach out their students, and that was in September. And then we have Duluth Business University, who is up in Duluth, and they are working actively to get alternate accreditation. And then we had Minnesota School of Business and Globe University.
Senator Rehheim?
Thank you. So the only ones left are Duluth and Minnesota School of Business?
Ms.
No.
Talbot?
Yeah.
Madam Chair, Senator Graham, yes, you are correct. The only institution that we anticipate to remain open would be Duluth Business University.
Okay. Thank you.
Senator Isaacson? No, that's fine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just to give a better, broader context, are there any for-profit schools right now that are accredited regionally in Minnesota?
Ms. Talbot?
Madam Chair, Senator Isaacson, yes, we do have a number of institutions who are for-profits who are also regionally accredited. That includes National American, Walden University, Capella University, Rasmussen College. I'm thinking that those are the only ones I can remember off the top of my head. So we do have some large ones that are regionally accredited.
That's all I want to know. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Ms. Oliver, you have anything to add you want to add? I don't want to put you on the spot, I'm sorry. That was me. But thank you both for being here, and thank you for the information.
Thank you very much.
And we will move on, and we have with us Gene Herman, the Chief Operating Officer of Globe University, and Jeff Meyer, CEO and family owner of Globe University and Minnesota School of Business. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record, and please feel free to start your presentation whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jeannie Herman, and we're grateful for the opportunity to appear in front of you today. I'll try to be as efficient and effective as I can and respect your time. I know that you've already heard an overview from the office, but I'd like you to hear a little bit of our story. Globe University and Minnesota School of Business were founded by traditional scholars who recognize the need for practical career training. And over the past century, our programs, whether at the diploma, associate, bachelor, or graduate level, have always focused on preparing students for a very specific career. In the early years, our focus was on secretarial, business, accounting, and those disciplines remain core to who we are today. Over time, we've added programs in health sciences such as nursing, veterinary technology, in information technology, from help desk support to programming, paralegal, engineering, and other programs where employer demand was strong and graduates could expect to find employment opportunities in their field of choice. And these institutions have been serving this state for over 130 years. In 1972, Terry Meyer and his father Helmer purchased Globe College of Business. Several years later, Terry also acquired the Minnesota School of Business, and these two schools have served Minneapolis and St. Paul as sister schools with common curriculum and oversight since that time. As education changed, whether in delivery or degree level, we worked with regulators, employers, and alumni to continue to enhance our offerings. We opened campuses in new communities, increased program offerings, and continue to provide higher degree options for our students who are interested in continuing their academic pursuits. We also added online courses, hybrid learning options, flipped classrooms, as well as additional and better defined experiential learning, all designed to meet the needs of our two customers, and we define those as our students and the employers who eventually hire our graduates. Our schools have been family-owned and operated for the past 45 years by the Meyer family, and they're passionate about education, students, and doing the right thing. Up until very recently, they've always had very strong working relationships with state and federal regulators. They've been quick to make changes when asked and have a strong commitment to creating a culture of compliance. In the early years of the state grant program and state licensing laws, Terry Meyer was involved in helping write language and working on the formula on who would be eligible for those grant dollars. Later in 2005, I worked directly with the office on changing language that moved all of the degree granting career colleges to registration under 136A, and they were formerly under the licensing statute of 141. We firmly believe in strong regulatory oversight, and we're proud to be part of the Minnesota educational landscape because it was that oversight and the leadership in this state that's provided a foundation for strong student outcomes and compliant, student-focused schools. In the fall of 2013, following the July Civil Investigative Demand, or the CID, from the Minnesota Attorney General, Globe and Minnesota School Business had a little over 4,500 students attending in Minnesota. That year, we put just over 2,100 graduates into the workforce in Minnesota, and we also employed over 1,200 Minnesota employees, including adjunct and full-time faculty, as well as our corporate support staff who worked here in Minnesota, but served our campuses in Wisconsin, South Dakota, Utah, Idaho, and our online students. We fully complied with all the conditions of that CID, including providing tens of thousands of documents to the Attorney General. And then the lawsuit was filed in 2014. You've already heard the allegations that were outlined by Ms. Talbot. And after the 3.5-week trial in April, you have already come to know that just one issue was found with a single program, and it represented less than 4% of our entire student population over the course of the years that program has been offered. We did attempt, as Ms. Talbot suggested, that we were the first school in the nation who actually went to court. We attempted at different times to either have the Attorney General visit our schools, meet our students, meet us, and then we also tried formal mediation on 2 different occasions. In neither situation were we able to reach a mutual agreement that would have allowed our schools to remain operational in the state and also to provide relief for students that may have been impacted. While the judge, in his court order, suggested that the schools are in full compliance of all Minnesota laws, he did find the one area related to the marketing and recruitment of criminal justice students. Ms. Talbot also already explained to you how the Post Board works in Minnesota. It's a state agency. It's a rule written specifically as it relates to regional accreditation. You should know that Minnesota is only one of 3 states in the United States that has a rule such as that. So our students in our Wisconsin campuses in South Dakota and Utah and Idaho, as well as online students, all have the opportunity to become police officers. This should in no way be considered my attempt to minimize these findings. We understand and take very seriously the findings in this case. We regret any harm that may have been realized by some students as a result of not being able to fulfill a dream they may have had about becoming a police officer. But I do ask that you consider the collateral damage that's been caused to the citizens of this state. In attempting to protect a specific group of students, thousands of students were displaced and hundreds of Minnesotans have lost their jobs. Ultimately, we don't know what might have happened had the Office of Higher Education not chosen to immediately revoke registration and our authority to operate in the state, but we are confident had they considered other consequences, whether it be fines, refunds to students, injunctions, or other remedial actions, that the catastrophic events that eventually followed that action taken by our institutional and programmatic accreditors, as well as the U.S. Department of Education, may have looked very differently. We believe, as the first authority, and as Ms. Talbot described, the triad, the state is the first authority in an institution becoming eligible as an institution of higher learning. The office's actions predicated those that followed. We have to wonder what would have happened if the office had taken an advocate role for the students who were still enrolled. Would their desire to support the role of those remaining students and continue to have educational choices and opportunities for future students have provided a much different ending to this story? We ultimately were left with 2 choices. We could lock the doors on students, alumni, and employees, or we could remain consistent with our mission of We Care and work through a very complicated and costly process of finding transfer options for students and continue to teach those students through a teach out for students who are committed to staying and graduating on time and eventually without the access to any state or federal funding assistance. I don't know if you know, but we did choose option 2 and we remain open today and are still teaching students. But our ability to remain open as well as to meet any potential court remedies was and is dramatically impacted by the revocation. However, that has not changed our continual efforts to do what is in the best interest of our students, which has included developing transfer agreements, identifying teach-out partners, offering a scholarship that is specific to assistant students nearing graduation to help finish their program at a lower cost, and even coming in front of you today. We remain steadfast in our commitment to do the right thing despite the continuing obstacles that we face. And with all due respect to the office and the comments around accreditation, I'd like to provide just a little bit different context. I know that those parts and moving parts can be complicated, and it's maybe easier if I answer questions, but I will say that while losing ACICS recognition, while they lost their recognition from the U.S. Department of Education, certainly created a definite hurdle. It didn't have to be a death sentence. The time frame to move to a new accreditor was doable. We had spoken to other national accreditors who were aware of the court finding and who we have other schools accredited by who trust and respect in our leadership, and we're open to considering the moving of the accreditation so that there was options. I will also say that ACICS is appealing the decision, is working through the court process, so that may also open other doors. With the U.S. Department of Education decision to remove our funding, and when that happened, it was certainly likely the most disastrous consequence that our students faced. And unfortunately, students had to exit our program much sooner than we had expected. Originally, all of our students who were in attendance at that point had an academic plan in place, and they knew that they would either graduate by September of 2017 or that they would have transferred to a different academic partner by that point. So the end came much sooner than anticipated. And while our appeal to the department was initially denied, we feel our right to due process may still be considered in the future. The descriptions around what the department found, we feel it can very likely be tied to the revocation, as was described. It's a triad that works together, and their actions were different than certainly the initial conversations we had with the department and what we thought would happen moving forward. And so while it's probably too late for us, and I understand that, and unfortunately our students and our employees do, I implore you to consider, as our leaders and our lawmakers, if this type of catastrophic and perhaps not even intention event should happen in the future, is there a different way to come to a decision? Can the Office of Higher Education use its discretion that's described in the statute? Are there other remedies that can be considered for an institution that's been in this state for 130 years? And as you consider this, are there ways to improve the interpretation of the law? Is there new language that is needed? What would cause the least amount of harm to the majority of Minnesota citizens as you look at this legislation moving forward? We've been a state known to believe and commit to access and choice in higher education, and we're proud to have been part of that landscape and would like nothing more than the opportunity to continue to serve students and meet the workforce needs of this state for many, many years to come. And I'll open to questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions? Senator Isaacson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wrote down a lot of stuff. I appreciate you being here today. When you say probably too late for us, what does that mean?
Ms. Herman?
Madam Chair, Senator Isaacson, it means that we currently have just a little over 100 students who are attending a few of our campuses. It's to come back from this from both a financial perspective and probably a brand and reputation perspective, it would be difficult. Although our years of serving the state, the outcomes of our programs, I mentioned nursing because it's one I'm most proud of. Our NCLEX rates rival those of the University of Minnesota and oftentimes are better than. We have also a lot of support, particularly the employers have hired our graduates for all the years that they have. There are shortages in some of the programs that we offer that very few other schools do. So the likelihood is there, but it would be very difficult for us.
Senator Isaacson?
Thank you. I have to say that I've been following this from afar, and, I'm a little nervous about how for-profit schools approach education. And unfortunately, this is the kind of example that confirms the fears that I myself am nervous about when I watch how this unfolded. And so I was particularly keen to pay attention to your word choices as you described your guys' situation. And I have to say that it's disappointing on a couple of levels. And when I look at your rhetoric, really kind of makes it sound like something outside of you is doing something unfair to you, when indeed courts have found that you guys were doing something very unfair to students. And when that happens, and then to turn around and deflect it like you're the victim from what they're trying to accomplish, and to even insinuate in your remarks that they're not advocating for the students, to me, shows that there's a real lack of understanding of what the problem is. And I'm not saying that you may or may not know what your business is, but I will say to insinuate that the Office of OHE isn't an advocate for students and concerned about the state of higher education is incredibly problematic for me in viewing how you guys should be able to continue. I'm really disappointed by that. I see several questions in here that I'm concerned about. One of them is, are you guys committed to repaying the students that were defrauded?
Ms. Herman?
Madam Chair, Senator Isaacson, I certainly apologize if my word choice wasn't what it should have been. I take full responsibility for what happened, and I absolutely believe the Office of Higher Ed is an advocate for students in this state. There is no doubt. We have worked together for years and years. I get concerned about the other students that have been left out of that equation, that it can feel that way to those students. So I apologize if it felt as if I was trying to deflect. It certainly is not my intention. Our intent will be to comply with what we need to from a legal perspective, and there are many considerations that go along with that are not yet final, so it would be difficult for me to speak to.
Senator Isaacson?
What other possible remedies could exist that don't involve you, or excuse me, Globe, paying the students back?
Ms. Herman?
Madam Chair, Senator Isaacson, I think, first of all, as you look at the students, each of them will be evaluated individually. And so for those students who are able to demonstrate and have possibly been harmed, then there will be a remedy as the current situation stands.
Senator Isaacson?
I'm gonna pause right there.
Senator Draheim?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You had mentioned about the time frame that you were allowed to make corrections to adjust for the accreditation part. Can you go into a little more detail on that? How much time were you given? What were your options?
Ms. Herman?
Madam Chair, Senator Draheim, when ACICS lost its recognition with the U.S. Department of Education, there was an 18-month time frame in which all schools that were accredited by ACICS would have the opportunity to move towards and find a new accreditor.
Senator Draheim?
Just a quick follow-up on that. And how much time do you think it would have took to find a new accreditation agency to accreditate?
Ms. Herman?
Madam Chair, Senator Draheim, the typical time frame to accreditation is anywhere from 18 months to 2 years. So because we have familiarity with other national accreditors and have schools accredited by other national accreditors, I feel like we could have met that timeline.
I don't see any other questions. And I believe Mr. Meyer wanted to make a presentation. So, Mr. Meyer, feel free, go ahead whenever you're
Thank
ready.
you.
to
Hi,
identify
my name is
yourself.
Jeff Meyer. I'm one of the family members that owns some of Globe and Minnesota School of Business. I'm also our CEO and have worked in our schools for 20 years. This is my 20th year. I think Jeannie did a nice job outlining some of the history and some of the stuff that we've dealt with. I think one of the possible remedies for students that this committee could help with, as well as the Office of Higher Ed, is to look at the post board the Minnesota agency that regulates the training for police officers. When we started the program back in 2004, 2005, we went to the post board 3 times and asked them to change their rule, which prohibited regionally accredited or nationally accredited schools from having graduates that could go on and become police officers. And at that time, they said there wasn't really a big demand and that they weren't going to consider any nationally accredited schools graduates to go on to become police officers. But that could be a remedy that would help students. And, you know, maybe between the committee and the Office of Higher Ed, they could ask the state agency, the post board, to consider changing their rule. We knew that our program was not going to prepare students to become police officers. It's why we disclosed on our advertising. It's why every student signed a disclosure saying they were not coming to a police officer prep program. But like Jeannie said, in the other states where we operated, our program, our graduates could go on and become police officers through similar post training in other states. So, you know, that's something that people should consider, is to really help students. If there were really students that wanted to be police officers that went through our training, even though we don't think that there were very few, and we will work with them on the restitution if we're required to do so. But that post board could change their rule, and students who are saying that they want to become police officers would then have an opportunity to become police officers in the state. And maybe now there is a greater need for people to go through police officer training and become licensed police officers in the state. Thank you.
Senator Abler?
Well, thanks. And Senator Isaacson said he was watching us from afar. I'm watching it from even further away, up to my neck with human service things and all of that. But I just wanted to commend, well, both the department and Ms. Herman and Mr. Myrie, especially Ms. Herman, for it's hard to sit at that table and suffer through deserved or undeserved questioning and scrutiny, and it's hard. And so I just thank you for not running out of the room, and for which some days I know people want to. And so I think, I mean, it's just a mess, and I'm sorry about all that, but I think that, you know, we try not to question motives, and I don't think there were any bad motives in this, just a lot of very difficult circumstances. And so I just wanted to say that. Thanks.
Senator Clausen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to read a little bit from a court finding based upon Mr., is it Myrie or Meyer? Myrie.
Meyer.
It says there can be no question the defendant's fraudulently practices cause significant public injury to any student who enrolled in the criminal justice program with the goal of becoming a Minnesota police or probation officer. And yet you just, if I understood you, you knew that. You knew that going in, but you really didn't share that with students, causing, as it's questioned here, fraudulent practices. And you are now in the restitution process, and I would really like to know, do you intend or do you have the means to financially compensate these people?
Mr. Meyer?
Madam Chair and Senator Clausen, we knew our program was not going to prepare students to become police officers. So we did tell them ahead of time through our advertising and through signed disclosures and in our catalogs that in Minnesota, the program would not prepare you to become a police officer. But it didn't prohibit the judge from, or the court from deciding that there was confusion and there were students that were potentially misled. So we understand that. We're disappointed, but you know, that was the finding, and so we're living with it. We are now trying to determine what the restitution might be, because again, what you read said students that had the intent of becoming police officers. And we don't believe all of those students had the intent to become police officers. All of our program advisory committee members were either, you know, police officers, corrections officers, people involved in mostly corrections and security. They all knew the program was not a police officer training program, yet they taught in the program, they were advisors, and they know that there are other jobs that have to do with security that need people that have training. And so it wasn't that we were trying to keep it from anyone, it was on our advertising. It was on the enrollment agreements that students signed. Our employees knew it. Some employees weren't clear, and we heard that at testimony. And so we are going to work with the court and the AG to remedy the situation. But we need to understand what the restitution looks like. And again, we don't think every one of those criminal justice students had the intention of becoming a police officer.
Senator Clausen?
I just wanted to read one other statement. This is from the United States Department of Education Action, so this is the federal. Globe made substantial misrepresentations about the nature of the criminal justice program and the employability of the graduates of that program. I would just encourage you to, through the restoration process, that you make sure you're fair with the students that went through the program, had misrepresentation about their goals, so that they're fairly compensated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Isaacson?
I just have two comments to make about this. One, part of what I had heard in the explanation was kind of like a defense of how this was just a small program within a larger system, and that perhaps there was an overreach by OHE. And I have to say that, you know, in academics, as an academic who teaches at a higher level institution, our integrity is kind of the currency that creates the reality that the accreditation sits on. You know, if I have many students that do a lot of silly things, but when they get caught cheating, that's the end, right? And so if I'm going to hold a student to the kind of standard that if they get caught cheating, that's a black mark on their record whenever they try to go off to school again, I would be remiss to think that I'm going to let an institution off when it makes a poor choice. Now, regardless of the rhetoric choices you make and how you talk about this, the courts are pretty explicit about what they think occurred at your school and the way you communicated with your students. And an inability to seemingly take responsibility for that. In addition, the absolute perception now of a lack of integrity that comes with that, it is not surprising to me that there's an uphill battle for you to find your way back into being a profitable business. And that to me is really important, because in higher education, the goal has got to be that integrity. The goal has got to be to make sure people can trust that we are doing what we say we're doing, and what we're providing to these students whose lives and dreams are on hold here is important. And I feel like that's a clear violation of that. And in going into my second point, I hope, for the sake of everybody in the community, that I don't find out that you relied on taxpayers to cover some of the restitution costs when it comes to getting some of their loans forgiven that they took out to go to your school. I hope that that isn't a remedy that I hear about later. Because if it is, I'm going to work on legislation to remedy that, because that is just not acceptable. The taxpayer should not be paying for the bill for restitution, and if that is even implied down the road, there's going to be problems for you guys down the road with legislation and how to handle that and fixing that in the future. So I would recommend that we stay seriously focused on finding a way within your means to take care of that and not rely on the taxpayers to take care of that. I really hope that's clear, and that isn't even a part of your guys' equation. So, thank you.
I just want to finish up by thanking both of you sincerely, because as a little bit of what Senator Abler said, you know, it's not always easy to be here, and so we appreciate that you both came and were very honest in telling us about what was going on. And I just wanted to just ask quickly, Senator Isaacson mentioned about the remedy, but is it my understanding that the remedy was court-ordered, so you would have to follow what the court is putting, so that it doesn't necessarily going to fall back on taxpayers? I mean, it's a court-ordered remedy. Am I misinterpreting something?
Madam Chair, I agree with your understanding of that, correct?
Okay, so it doesn't look like Senator Isaacson that it would fall back on the taxpayers. But once again, if there's no other questions, I just want to tell you thank you very much. We appreciate it. You can see how I got the feeling that you're very interested in students, and obviously, we're very interested in students and higher ed here. You can see some of the passion that we have about that. So, but thank you very much for being here sincerely. And so, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no other questions, or if there's no other, anybody in the audience that would want to testify, we will adjourn. We are adjourned. Thank you.